Does anyone ever actually use the bridesmaid's dress again? Enough to say I did it, but not enough to be like an idiot if no one else did it. I love a best man speech. They're honestly the highlight. And if you stay till the very end, I'll show you a photo of my wedding. Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new around here, I'm Yvette and I moved to the UK a year and a video. It's still struggling to get a good riff going with that, but nonetheless, I've been living in the UK and I'm documenting my time here. And one of the things I thought would be fun to document would be weddings. So I'm married, although I forgot to put my ring on, which doesn't bode well, but it's because I was working out. Yeah, so I thought it'd be fun to talk weddings. I'm married, I got married in Australia. However, my groom is British and his family is British. So I had, and then Australian weddings are a bit more Americanized. So I thought it'd be a fun comparison to talk American versus British, maybe a bit Australian in the middle, because that's what it always is. It's really hard to do a comparison because it's such a meld of the two. So I'll discuss differences because I'm married, I got married in Australia, which is half American, half British. And I have been to my sister-in-law's wedding, who she married a Scotsman in Scotland. And I have been to a English wedding as well. So I've got a pretty good scope of experience. I haven't been to an American wedding, to be fair, but Australian weddings are basically that. And I've been to so many Australian weddings. Tapping is my dog walking around, terribly sorry. From my understanding, in the UK, you just have like the pre-wedding events. They will generally just have a bachelor or bachelorette party slash hen do or bucks party. We call them hens parties and bucks parties in Australia. We do the same thing. In the US, they often have a bridal shower. Is that what they call it, a bridal shower? Or we also consider it sometimes a kitchen tea. I don't know if the UK do kitchen teas. So kitchen tea is like where the the mums, the friends, the grandmas, the aunties, they all come to the kitchen tea and you know, have basically a high tea with your family. Whereas the bachelorette party is like carnage. It's like absolute shenanigans. So in the US, they also have the kitchen tea slash bridal shower, then they have a hens party, and I think they have a rehearsal dinner. We don't do that, and the UK don't do that. Too expensive, nobody got time for that. So there's one difference that I found. In America, bridesmaids buy their own dresses, whereas in the UK, the bride will buy the bridesmaids' dresses for them. In Australia, it's 50-50. 9 out of 10 times the bridesmaids buy their own dress because the weddings are already so expensive. But I've been bridesmaid 4 or 5 times, a few times. So every wedding I've been a bridesmaid for, I've bought my own dress. However, the bride has always been quite understanding and has been more of a collaborative discussion of, rather than us buying a dress we hate, she will all try and find a dress we like, and then we'll buy that one. So we're all kind of agreeing on it, so we don't just, you know, have to buy the most ugly puffy dress or something. So in that way we could use the dress again. Maybe, who knows? Does anyone ever actually use the bridesmaid's dress again? Something that's not common in British culture is coming to all parts of the wedding. So in Australia and in the US, most times people go to the wedding ceremony and then they'll go to the reception. In the UK, there are people who will just go to the ceremony and then more people will come to the reception. It's just like your close family at the ceremony, and then the party part is with everyone. Sometimes that happens in Australia, but rarely. The wedding reception generally costs money, so that's the bit you want to cut the numbers down on. No, like I actually had people come to my ceremony that weren't invited to the reception because they wanted to see us married, but they weren't invited for the reception because money. So yeah, it's actually the reverse in Australia, but it is what it is. Weddings are expensive, what can you do? When I was going to my two British weddings, I had a bit of a meltdown because I read online that like you were supposed to wear a big fascinator at a British wedding, and I saw it with the royal weddings, like the posh people wore fascinators. I was like, where am I gonna get a fascinator? And I flew here to the UK and I didn't have one, and I was like I didn't want to pay a lot either because I'm cheap. So I'm like at like H&M, and I'm at like Primark, and like I even went to like M&S. I was just like looking at any like major store that's had anything remotely fascinatory-esque to buy, and I couldn't find one. I think I wore a flower in there, like a clip-in flower, so it was like enough to say I did it, but not enough to be like an idiot if no one else did it. But no one at the Scottish wedding I went to, no one wore a fascinator. I don't think anyone did. And in the English one, like only the older people did. The young people didn't seem to wear them. So I don't know if it's a dying tradition or not, but Definitely not in the US, definitely not in Australia. Like, you're lucky if we're even wearing like a jacket in Australia, and I'm not even joking. People will wear like a waistcoat and a button-up shirt underneath, and then they won't wear the coat for the ceremony. That's the groomsmen. So very chill. Some people will even roll up the sleeves for the ceremony, the formal bit. So this is definitely just a stereotype I see, but I feel like in the US there's like, because they always do bigger and better, you know, that's this, you know, always be winning, that thing. They always seem to have so many bridesmaids. Pretty much Australia and the UK has about the same. My sister-in-law had, I think, 4 bridesmaids. I had 4 bridesmaids. The other wedding I went to in the UK, I think they only had 2 bridesmaids. Like, it was very low. But one major difference, and this only happened at the British one, not the Scottish one. I shouldn't say that. The English one, not the Scottish one, was that in the US and Australia, the bridesmaids come in first and then the bride comes in. So it's like leading up to. Where in the UK, it's the reverse. The bride comes in first and then the bridesmaids follow. I like the bridesmaids coming in first because I think it builds anticipation. So that's what I had as well. But that's what's normal. But yeah, I have seen the other one I went to, a friend's one. She came in first with her dad, and then the bridesmaids behind her with the flower boy and flower girl, page boy, flower girl. But yeah, so thought that was a quite stark difference, surprisingly, which is like funny because it all comes from the same. But in terms of size, it's all the same. I do know that the other difference I noticed was that, I can't remember what happened in the Scottish one, but the English one for sure, because I remember seeing the photos, the groomsman in the English one faces the front and doesn't watch the wife walk up the aisle. Whereas that's like a big thing of Australian and American weddings, is you want to get the groomsman's face. You want the photo of the face when he sees the bride coming down, because it's like, they're not like, do they cry? What's their expression? It's always really sweet. So like, it's a big thing. And that doesn't happen in the UK because you don't turn around. They wait till they're at the altar and then they turn, which, do you get the full impact of everything if that happens? Who knows? But I thought that was quite interesting as well. The other major difference was the groomsmen. Most of the time, groomsmen will line up with a bridesmaid and they will walk down after the ceremony. So I think in America, sometimes they walk up together. But in Australia, you walk in with your bridesmaids, come first, then you go up, you get married, then you walk out together with your husband, and then they walk behind you and they pair up, like your 2 groomsmen and bridesmaids. In the US, it can sometimes walk in together. The other thing is that the UK, they don't have, the groomsmen and the bridesmaids don't stand for the ceremony, they sit, which I thought was interesting because we stand the whole ceremony, which, as someone who's been bridesmaid a lot, is not easy in the shoes you're wearing, I'll be honest. Sitting, not a bad idea. It's not even about me, I don't need to be up there. But yeah, so they sit during the ceremony, so do the groomsmen. So the groomsmen usher everyone in and sit them down, and then they sit, and then they exit, like I said. So the groomsmen don't stand at all during the ceremony, which is, the groomsmen stand there and wait for the bride to come in Australian and American weddings. Something that I see a lot in American TV shows, and I've only been at, I think, 1 or 2 weddings where they wrote their own vows. Can't even remember if my sister-in-law wrote her vows. 9 times out of 10, everyone says the religious vows. I was married in the Church of England, so I said the Church of England vows. To be honest, I'm not overly emotional person. I'm not going to sit there and proclaim my deep feelings to this audience. I'll tell the person it's relevant for, and then that's it. So that was sorted me out just fine. But I know in America, they like to write their own vows and make it very personal because they're very outgoing people, which most Brits aren't. So Australia is really hit or miss. It depends on the confidence of the person, I think. Some people who want to make a big show of it will write a big essay about their romance. But then people who keep it more close to the chest will just be like, just tell me the words I have to say, please. Which was definitely me. So yeah, that's depending where you go. But I think it depends how religious you are as well, I suppose. Because like I said, Australia is a very big mix of the UK and the US. So an interesting thing is that in the UK, so traditionally, best man speech is always roast of the groom, and it's great and it's fun, and that's honestly the best part of a wedding, if I'm honest, is if you get a good best man speech. It's very funny. However, in the US, it seems to be like shunned, like they don't, maybe because they don't like sarcasm as much, do you know what I mean? But like British and Australians like love to roast each other and have a go. So it's like, it'd be weird if someone got up as a best man speech and was like, he's a great guy, thanks for marrying him, and sits back down. Like, that'd be so weird. You want to be like, remember that time you got so drunk that that's the story you want to hear. Because normally in Australian weddings and the British ones, I love a best man speech. They're honestly the highlight. So you normally have like the father of the bride, father of the groom speech, maybe an uncle chucked in there, and they're all leading up to the best man speech because everyone knows it's the best speech. And then the groom will get up after that and have to be like, you're gonna look at me differently now. So 100% my favorite part of a wedding. And it's so weird that Americans are just like, don't embarrass me. And we're like, you have to be embarrassed. It's an important rite of passage. A new trend is like the grand entrance to the bridal party where you like come in and like, you know, you do your dance. Every single wedding I've ever been to has had that. Cross countries, cross continents. Been to Lebanese weddings, Indian weddings, been to a lot of weddings. They all do the same thing. I think it's just a new trend people do. You know, do the like dancing as you walk in. But traditionally the British aren't meant to do that, but I think they have in the ones I've been to, so figure it out, England. Another like stereotype of British weddings is that all the wedding cakes are supposed to be fruitcake. That is the stereotype tradition thing in Australia too, but to be honest, I've never been at a wedding that's had fruitcake because no one really likes fruitcake. I think it's from the tradition where you're supposed to take the top tier home and eat it on your first year anniversary, and fruitcake keeps that long. But I don't know anyone that does it. Everyone has chocolate cake. That's just what it is. Everyone's got one tier of chocolate and then one tier of either caramel and or vanilla or marble. I've yet to be one that doesn't have that. Although once, no, honorable mention, my friend had a wedding, Australian. She got married at a vineyard. Wonder if she watches this. Anyways, she got married in a vineyard, beautiful wedding. And it was because it was a vineyard, there's wine. So instead of having a traditional cake, and she loves cheese, she got like different sized cheese wheels and piled them up. I think they were like a brie, so they had like the white casing on them. So it looked like one of those rustic cakes that people get, like the unfinished, you know, icing cake. But really it was cheese wheels. It was the most original, best idea I've ever seen. I don't even eat cheese, but I'm like, amazing. And I did eat cheese then at that wedding because I wasn't vegan yet, and it was really good cheese. My final 2 points is that traditionally both countries and Australian throw the bouquet. Everyone does a bouquet toss, but the garter is much more of an American thing. And the same thing I think stands for basically UK and Australian weddings. I haven't been to an American wedding. Is that it's literally just up to the bride and groom how comfortable they are. Sometimes if you have like a bit of a shy bride or groom who doesn't feel like sticking their head up their partner's dress in a room full of people, which would be completely understandable, doesn't want to do the garter toss, so I understand. So yeah, my experience has it's more about the people, not the culture. Funnily enough, I had a garter toss at my wedding. And the groomsman it was the best man that caught the garter. However, he is still not married. So out of all of the groomsmen, he's like the only one that's not married still. The irony. Last but not least, alcohol. Traditionally, I think from film and TV, it's quite common to have an open bar in the US where you have like spirits and everything. That is very posh at an Australian wedding and a British wedding. In my experience, it's been that you get beers and wine. That's part of the package. And then if you want to purchase spirits or cocktails or anything else, that's at the discretion of the guest. If they want to pay at the bar for an extra like nicer drink that's a bit more expensive, they can do that. Whereas that's the same as Australia, same as the UK, pretty consistent. But in the America, it seems like tight to consider that. However, I will say the Lebanese wedding I went to, yeah, I've been to a few. One of the Lebanese weddings I went to, I should specify, they just had like bottles of scotch, bottles of vodka just on the table like they were wine. It was like, what? If you knew how much alcohol costs in Australia, you'd be like, this is the most expensive wedding I've ever been to just from the alcohol spend. But yeah, that is my summary of weddings in England and Scotland and Australia and the UK and America. That's not all of them, I said the UK twice. Whatever, you get the gist. Tell me in the comments below if my experiences have been unique and you're like, well, that's so weird, I thought that didn't happen, blah blah. If you liked this video, give me a thumbs up and remember to hit subscribe so I can see you next time. And here is a photo from my wedding. There you go, rewards for staying this long. Me with brown hair and very, very pale. I look like a vampire. But if that's the only cringe I've got about my wedding, I did pretty okay. No puffy sleeves for me. See you next time. Bye.